let me go to bank fraud now.
Okay.
Sometimes bank frauds are committed by bank staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is being done to ensure that bank staff are in check, that their activities are always in check, so we get to know when these fraudulent acts are being committed?
Well, it's usually an issue of control for a financial institution.
Okay.
The instrument of control, the policies, the procedures are fundamental in terms of protecting the financial institution from fraudulent activities.
Okay.
So for every process in the banking system, there are control measures. Oftentimes, when you see fraud perpetrated, it is the failure of control.
Okay.
And you also have situations where, for expediency, some banks will lower standard of control. So you find situations, because the banking system is so robust in terms of its process. You have situations where transactions are done in a way that no single person can fully authorize transactions. You have to have different signatories, different people authorizing, particularly if the amount involved is of substantial value. So there are controls that are embedded in the system that operates in any bank. But oftentimes when frauds are perpetrated, these controls are let down. They allow controls to be undermined.
Okay.
And that's usually the challenge.
Okay.
But it is also very, very important that banks ensure that they employ the right caliber of people. Because if you have somebody that is not sufficiently knowledgeable, experienced, holding very, very critical functions, it's easy for him or her to overlook a lot of things.
Okay.
But it's almost impossible to stamp out financial crime, frauds from the banking system.
Exactly.
It's impossible, because you can't put people in charge of money and believe that everybody would not be tempted.
True.
So that's the reality.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about inside abuse as bank staff,
Okay.
there was a story of a deceased man. Apparently his account officer took the money. I don't know how that happened, but the family of the deceased did not go to the bank till like several years after, and that account officer already left the bank. So now I'm wondering, how did he get this? Because of course there are certain you fill some forms, get some signatures and all. So I'm wondering, how did that happen?
How did he slip by? Why didn't they find out in time?
Exactly.
Well, the truth is that for most of the successful fraud, you must have some collaborations. You can hardly perpetrate a fraud within the banking system without involving somebody else.
Okay.
It's possible. It's not too remote, but it's very unusual. And of course, like you said, the way transactions are authorized in the banking system is by signature.
Okay.
So and of course we know signatures can always be forged. And of course, if you are the account officer of the deceased person, or even after the person has died, you could present a face or present something to show that maybe you have a bona fide representative of the deceased, and you sign all the documents required to consummate a transaction. It will go through. Maybe you need the conspiracy of some other people, and of course, if they are willing to share the benefit of fraud, you can get some collaborators that work with you. And of course, they will be more comfortable believing that the victim of the fraud is deceased. So you understand that it's unlikely that somebody will come trying to make any claim, you know.
Okay.
So that's why oftentimes when the bank comes to the knowledge of the fact that a customer is deceased, the account is immediately put on hold.
Oh.
If you put the account on hold and insist that appropriate documentations are provided to allow the beneficiaries of the estate of the deceased to have access to the funds, you have safeguarded the account from being susceptible to fraud.
Okay.
So, but when you have a situation where maybe a customer died and there's no information
No
to the bank,
no death
so it
certificates and
is
all.
just a template for fraud.
For fraud.
So that's why
Okay.
you're taught in the bank that any information that you come across that could have implications on your relationship with the client, you're supposed to make use of it.
Of it.
No, okay.
Okay, so we need to go on a break now,
Yeah.
but then when we come back, we'll be talking about, I know we have different types of bank frauds. We talk about fraudulent loans and fraudulent loan applications
Checks and all.
and numerous others. So
Right.
we'll be going into that and explaining more about it and how people can, identify them before they
Before
become
it happens,
victims, before it
exactly.
happens. Okay, so we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, the conversation continues. And of course, the phone lines will be open for you to join in the conversation and ask your questions or contribute to the discussion of the day, as the case may be. Please do stay tuned, as Tea or Coffee will be back after this break. You can join us tomorrow for another exciting episode of Tea or Coffee.